James and Sharon. How are you?
Good, good.
Hi, good. Thank you.
I loved Together. I did not know what I was getting into. I was not expecting what I got, but I loved it. So my first question is just how do you combine what is essentially like a very well-deserved like civil rights rant almost with actually getting into your character, because you're really discussing these really specific political and health conscious aspects about England, and yet you are having to play he and she, and really get into that story. James?
I don't know. I guess we'd all lived it. We'd all been through it. We were all still going through it when we were shooting it. And it wasn't very difficult to just imagine myself a slightly more conservative person than I am, or maybe massively more so, and maybe imagine myself in a different kind of relationship than the one that I'm actually in. And it was like just stepping to the left or stepping to the right in his case, and stepping into his shoes. But I feel like it's always like that. You can be playing a mass murdering, despotic leader of Scotland, you know what I mean? And yet it doesn't feel like that much of a shift than it does to playing this guy. Maybe that just means I play everything the exact same.
No. But for you, Sharon, like you have a full monologue that's really like A, very theatrical, and B, like statistics, like the history of the virus.
Well, luckily, and I might be misremembering this, but I think we shot it in order, James, sort of almost.
Yep, we did. Yeah, we did.
So that kind of helped because we were able to follow the narrative of the the film, obviously, but the narrative of the lockdown as well, when it started, and at what stage you got to, what stage you were at when you were at the second lockdown. And so really their trauma and their institutionalization and their anger at the government sort of built up over the course of the film. So, really when we dove in first, it was much more about their relationship and the hate and all that. And then as it progressed, the other things transpired to either push them apart or bring them together. And then by the time you got to the point where we're calling the government to task, I mean, that's where everyone's heads were at, nationally,
I love that. Also, speaking of your relationship, I love Artie and just how he's like always there, and yet you guys can't even agree on like his name. Can you just talk for 1 minute about his role in your relationship in the story?
Yeah, he's. I think some people kind of think we ignore him too much, or we let him hear too much of what's going on. But I think the truth is kids do hear tons of what's going on. And maybe it's not entirely wrong that they hear tons of what's going on. I think sometimes we try and protect our kids from way too much, and we end up not preparing them for the world that they're going to have to step into, which is why they're all staying with their parents until they're 35 at the moment. Which, I want mine out the door when he's 18. So we got to let them hear. I don't know. Look, Artie hears too much in this movie, undoubtedly, but I don't know. I think that I'm a loving, cuddly parent, but I do think that we worry too much about what we're letting our kids see.
He certainly self-adjusted at the end, so he seems fine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was really important to the story. It gave it a whole different, color. And which was really interesting for us because, we weren't entirely sure that I was worrying about it throughout, that it's going to make her so unlikable. But in actual fact, the love that they do give him and even if it's just like, like a stroke of a head or like touching his hand as he goes by, or the way they lower their voices, or they think about him all the time. He's obviously a worry and they think about him all the time, but it's a lockdown. I mean, my kids saw me sort of lying on the floor crying, during lockdown. I wish they hadn't seen that, but it was also, there was no other way around it. We were imprisoned in our own homes. So I think it was really truthful that in this story that he saw too much.
It definitely was very truthful and fascinating. So thank you both so much for your work, and I cannot wait for everyone to see it. And
Thanks for watching.
Take your own government to task as well.